Hey guys, I know my lighting is really bad for this video because I just wanted to film it really quickly so I could put it up soon for you guys. Today we will be discussing The Red Pyramid by Riordan, which I read totally during the duodecathlon, and I really enjoyed this book and I just wanted to let you guys know some of my thoughts on this so we could discuss it. The Bookish Thoughts and Feelings live show for this book will be held on Saturday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel. If you want to come join us and discuss the book then. I will be joined by my two friends, Peter from Platinum Smith and Sam from Empty Inkpots. I don't have a lot to say about it. I just want to let you guys know my rating, and then I have a few funny parts that I really like that I wanted to talk about. Without further ado, let's get started with my rating. For characters, I gave it an 18 out of 20 or 1 star. Riordan does a fantastic job at making the characters seem very realistic, how you would picture them. I felt very attached to them, like I was one of the characters that went on the adventure together. They were sometimes really annoying, just like people can be. Everyone can be annoying sometimes, and Rick does a fantastic job at letting that come across in his writing. But at the same time, they're really funny sometimes, and I really do love the humor that he uses in this. Then plot, I gave a 19 out of 20 or 1 star. The basis of this plot is very similar to the Percy Jackson series, because the main characters are going after the bad guy and they have to travel across the country, basically learning their powers on the way to fight against this guy and to end up defeating him. And even though it's really similar, I feel like Riordan does a fantastic job at writing that kind of story. And even though it's very similar, at the same time it's very different, and there's all these different quirks to these characters and the story. Of course, because it's with Egyptian gods and you get really attached to the characters because you know them so well. And there are some major plot twists in this book that you don't really see coming, and I just really liked that out of this book. Setting, I gave a 18 out of 20 or 1 star. Originally I was going to say that this book should have had a bit more description, like I say for a lot of books, but then I started to sort of reflect on this book, and I realized that Rick descriptions in so well throughout the book that you might not even realize it, but he's still describing it, and you're picturing it just how he describes it, because he puts the descriptions into the book so well that you don't even realize they're describing it to you, but at the same time you're still seeing it, not overloading you with information. So Rick does a fantastic job at that, so obviously he gets another star for that. Rating was a 20 out of 20 or 1 star. Riordan is definitely one of my favorite authors. I don't have really a favorite, but I do have a video talking about some of my favorites, which I will link on the screen if you want to go check that out. It is my auto by authors, and those are basically my favorite authors. And Rick is obviously one of them. And I think he's on this list just because he mixes so many different elements of the story together just to make one whole story. He has humor, he has a bit of love, like there's familial love, but at the same time there's this other, love as how you picture it. I have a ship that is totally sailing this thing. He has so much adventure, of course, and there's a bit of mystery weaved in throughout it. And it's done so amazingly, as with all of his other books, and I just love it. My enjoyment was a 16 out of 20 or 3/4 of a star. I really enjoyed reading it, and I had a lot of fun reading it, but after reading A Darker Shade of Magic, it wasn't as fantastic as that, obviously, but was really good in its own way. Also, at the same time, I feel like it couldn't live up to how much I love the Percy Jackson series and those characters, because they're some of my favorite characters ever, and this couldn't really compare. But I did really enjoy these characters and the whole story, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, I gave it a 91% or 4 3/4 of a star. So if you have not yet picked this book up, you definitely should. I would definitely recommend picking up Percy Jackson too, if you haven't. I don't know why you haven't, but I definitely like that series a bit more than this one. Just maybe because I read it first, I don't know. If you haven't yet read it, I would definitely recommend you go pick it up, but if you haven't, then I would just suggest you leave now. Okay, bye! Some of my favorite parts, or just parts that I really liked, were the Percy Jackson references. Percy, he's my true love. So on page 52, they were talking about where they could live on only one side of the river. And Sadie asked, "So you can't live in Manhattan?" she asked. Amos's brow furrowed as he looked across at the Empire State Building. "Manhattan has other problems, other gods. It's best we stay separate." "Other what?" Sadie demanded. "Nothing." Amos passed us to this sphere man. You know those other gods are the Greek gods, so they're my fave, And then on 288 there was a very obvious one, but I found it very amusing. "I assume you're Thoth?" He raised an eyebrow. "You claim not to know me?" "Of course I'm Thoth. Also called Jehudi, also called..." I stifled a laugh. "Jehudi?" Thoth looked offended. "In ancient Egyptian, it's a perfectly fine name. The Greeks called me Thoth. Then later they confused me with their god Hermes. Even had the nerve to rename their sacred city Hermopolis. Though we're nothing alike. Believe me, if you ever met Hermes..." "Ah!" Khufu yelled, through a mouthful of Cheerios. "You're right," Thoth agreed. "I'm getting off track. We know Hermes from the Percy Jackson series, and yeah, they're not really anything alike, but Hermes is a great character, so I just had to mention him because he mentioned him, And then just a part that I found really funny was this part where Carter first starts talking to Horace, and I'll read it to you so you know what I'm talking about. "I was afraid to try it, but I thought, Horace?" "Well, it's about time," the other voice said. "Hello, Carter." "Oh no," I said, panic rising in my chest. No. Somebody get a can opener. I've got a god stuck in my head." Bast's eyes lit up. "You communicated with Horace directly? That's excellent progress." "Progress?" I banged my palms against my head. "Get him out." "Calm down," Horace said. "Don't tell me to calm down." Bast frowned. "I didn't." "Talking to him?" I pointed at my forehead. "This is awful," Sadie wailed. "How do I get rid of her?" Bast sniffed. "First off, Sadie, you don't have all of her. Gods are very powerful. We can exist in many places at once. But yes, part of Isis's spirit now resides inside of you. Just as Carter now carries the spirit of Horus. And frankly, you both should feel honored." "Right, very honored," I said. "Always wanted to be possessed." That I found really funny when I was reading it. I was like, yeah. Just the way you worded it, it was really funny. "Yeah, I always wanted to be possessed by a god." She's like, "You should be honored." There's another part with Thoth. He was talking about his old writing, and I just found it really true. I felt the same way because I'll read it and then I'll talk about it. Thoth unfolded the papyrus pages. "Oh dear, I hate reading my old work. Look at the sentence. I'd never write it that way now." He patted his lab coat pockets. "Red pen, does anyone have one?" I was just like, yeah, that's how I feel going back and looking at my work. It's like, oh my god, what was I thinking when I wrote this? This is horrible. I don't even know what I'm looking at. That's how I felt the other day. I was reading my book that I wrote during NaNoWriMo, and I went back and I was looking at it, and I was like, this is horrible. I don't even know what I wrote. It sounded really bad, and I was like, oh god, I've got a lot of work to do. End of the book. Sadie didn't throw Set back into the duat because she saw Apophis, and Apophis was rising. I don't know how to feel about that, because on one hand, Nut and Jeb, they both were saying Set doesn't always seem how he seems to you guys. He is one of our children, and we love him equally, which seemed a bit strange. But then when you realize that he was being used, I don't know, did he know he was sort of being used? Like, he didn't know he was being used, obviously. But how did he use him? Did he, persuade him to do it and sort of go a bit bad and to chaos magic? Because, I don't know, he didn't seem possessed. Like, he obviously wasn't possessed, but was Apophis nudging him in that direction, like, sort of possessing him and swaying him towards that side? I wasn't really sure about that, because if he wasn't and he was just telling him sort of stuff that convinced him to go to that side, how are we supposed to trust him still? And then that whole business with Zia not being actually Zia, and she was a Shabti, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure they're gonna find her. Like, they're gonna find Zia, the real Zia. And so she's being, sort of, she and Nephthys, I don't know her name, how to say her name, but they are sort of together, like Nephthys is in Zia, so together, but they're hidden from us. We don't know where they are because Iskandar hid them because he wanted her to be safe. And we don't know where she is, so how are we supposed to find her? Even though I know Carter wants to find her so much, I don't know how we're supposed to find her because we don't know anything about it. And then there was only one other thing I wanted to talk about with you guys, and that was Sadie and Anubis. They're really cute together. I like them together. They need to get together because just their conversations, and he was really good looking. I pictured him like Nico. Did you guys picture him like Nico? I pictured him really similar to Nico, and it's because they have that death god vibe, you know, underworld vibe, and I thought they would be really similar. Like they look very similar, and sort of they have different attitudes, but they're very similar in my mind. I love Nico and I love Anubis, and Sadie and Anubis need to get together within the next few books, because you know now her dad and mom are down there, so they're gonna have to visit, and then they're just gonna get together. It's gonna be great, you know? Yeah. That's all I wanted to talk with you guys about the Red Pyramid. Definitely come join us on our live show on May 2nd, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be up very soon. Bye!